I was driving home from work about 9:30 in the evening, 9:30, around that time, and approaching the road that turned off a paved road to my house, I noticed flashing lights in the distance and assumed that they were fireworks. And but was puzzled about why someone would be shooting fireworks in August. You see this at New Year's and the 4th of July, but never in August. But I continued on home, turning down a dirt road toward my house, and I got about halfway down the road, and suddenly, in the distance, about treetop level, this huge object just lit up. And it was a glowing orange-red color. It was enormous. And so I stopped the car, convinced that I was seeing things, or I didn't know what it was. However, when I stopped the car, it went out. And so I immediately proceeded to go home, went on down the road, and I went a little distance, and it came back on. Just this, again, this huge thing. Then I stopped again. And when I stopped, it went out. And I sat there for a few minutes, and then I started on again to come on down the road home, and it lit up again. And when I stopped the car, it didn't immediately go out, but it did go out. And I decided that I'm not staying, I'm leaving. And so I began reversing up this dirt road with the ditches on either side. No backup lights. I don't really know how yet I made it without going in the ditch, but when I finally reached the paved road and turned around and then looked back, coming toward me at about power line level was an enormous, bright, bright light. The glowing object was not there any longer. It was just this really bright light, and moving very slowly in the direction that I was traveling. And so I immediately took off, and I went back to my office in Fort Payne. I have no idea what I saw, but it scared me to death. It was bigger than my house. It was just an enormous glowing object. There were 6 or 8 pine trees that were affected by whatever this thing was. They had turned a very strange color, the needles on the pine trees. There's a maple tree nearby that with leaves on one side and no leaves left at all on the other side of this tree. And underneath where this object was, there's nothing but bare ground. Everything had died, all the grass and weeds and foliage of any sort. Just totally bare ground. Well, this happened in 1976, and it seems, I'm not absolutely certain of this, but I think it's been about 4 years ago that it finally started to regrow, which would be 86. So there was a period there of somewhere around 10 years that we had just a big bare spot there, that nothing grew. And there was a large pine tree that looked like something had just snapped the top out of it. However, it had not turned a different color. It was still green, but it was broken.